Welcome back, everyone. Have you ever wondered how to create an image of a dinosaur jumping through a time portal and landing in the American Wild West of the 1800s? Well, for some strange reason I did, and this is what I came up with. I started with this nice image of a velociraptor and this old Wild West town that I generated with just a few easy prompts in Leonardo.AI. Then I went to pixabay.com and found this great jungle image and a ring of fire set to a black background. With that, I was ready to start. The first thing I did was to duplicate the fire ring by clicking Command or Control J. Then I clicked the little dot to the right of the lower layer to turn it off. Then I selected the upper layer and went to Layer in the menu, then New Live Mask Layer, and then selected Luminosity Range. This brought up a little graph with a line at the top. You can add nodes to the line and move them around to affect the curve. In this example, I can click to add a node or two to the right side, which controls the brighter elements of the image. And then I can pull down the left side, which controls the darker parts of the image. By manipulating the curve like this, you can mask out the black, leaving only the fire ring. Okay, now that I have just the fire itself, I'll click Command or Control J to duplicate the layer. Then I'll give it a little turn to the left by grabbing the handlebar at the top. I'll do this a few more times to get a nice full-looking fire circle. Then I'll select the top fire layer and the bottom fire layer while holding the Shift key. This selects all the ones in between as well. I'll right-click on them and go to Group. Then I'll right-click on them again and select Rasterize to put them all in a single pixel layer. I'll go to Edit and copy this new pixel layer and then switch to my Wild West scene and go to Edit Paste to paste the fire ring into a new layer above the town here. The fire ring is much bigger in terms of pixels than the background scene. So I'll use the arrow-shaped move tool in the left-hand toolbar to grab onto the corner nodes and resize the fire ring so it fits just above the dirt road here. Okay, next I'll go to the Shapes drop-down in the left-hand toolbar and I'll click on the elliptical shape. I'll center my cursor in the middle of the fire ring and then hold Shift plus Command or Control to draw a perfect circle from the center out. For some reason it was set to transparent, so I'll go to the color fill box in the top toolbar and change it to white so we can see it. Next, I'll switch to the jungle scene and go to Edit Copy, and then I'll switch back to my project and click Edit Paste. It's a lot larger than the western scene too, so I'll just use the Move tool and drag the nodes to make it a bit smaller. To avoid doing this, I could have used the Place tool to draw the new image onto my canvas. But I recorded this real time, so I apologize if it's a bit distracting. Anyway, now that my jungle scene fits on the canvas, I'll drag the layer onto the circle shape layer. This will embed the image onto the circle. Then I'll move the embedded image layer under the fire ring layer and resize it a bit by using the Move tool to drag the nodes inward so you can see a bit more of the jungle. There, that looks good. Alright, next I want to make the jungle look a little distorted, so I'll duplicate the layer by clicking Command or Control J. Then, with the top jungle layer selected, I'll go to my Live Filters button at the bottom of the Layers panel and I'll scroll down to Ripple to give it a bit of a wavy, shimmery look. Okay, now I'll go to the Opacity slider at the top of the Layers menu and slide that down a bit so the waves are less strong. There, that looks good. Okay, next, I'm going to switch to my fierce-looking velociraptor image. I want to isolate this beast of a reptile and remove its background. So, I'll go to the Selection Brush tool and use it to paint over the dinosaur's body to select him. On my standard American keyboard, the left and right square bracket keys will make the brush head smaller or bigger. And if you accidentally select areas you don't want, you can hold the Option or Alt key to paint away unwanted areas. Okay, now that I have a pretty good selection, I'll click the Refine tool in the top toolbar to help make it better. I can see some of the pink overlay on the dinosaur, so I'll select the Foreground Adjustment brush to paint those areas back in. Then I'll switch to the matte adjustment brush to go over these really small little spines on his back and around his teeth. Affinity Photo will make its best guess as to what to include into the selection and what to remove. Alright, I think this is good enough for my purposes, so I'll go to the Output drop-down and select New Layer with Mask and then click Apply. Alright, I'll just go to Edit and Copy to copy the layer, and then I'll switch back to my project and select Edit Paste to paste the Velociraptor into a new layer of its own. Okay, now I want to use the Move tool to size the dinosaur and fire ring so they look good to my eye. First though, I'll select all the layers that make up my time portal. Then I'll right-click on them and select Group to group them together. Now, I can move and resize them all together. So, I'll make the fire ring time portal a little bit bigger, then I'll move the dinosaur on top. Then, I'll select my paintbrush tool from the left-hand toolbar and then go to my paintbrush panel. Next to the Layers panel, select a soft round brush from the Basics category. I'll make sure that the mask layer is selected and that my color is set to black. I can then use the paintbrush to paint away the areas of the tail and back leg on the left side. This makes it look as if my reptilian friend here is coming through the ring. Remember, painting black on a normal mask will make the masked image disappear, revealing the images below. Alright, now I want to create a little bit of the shadow from the Velociraptor. To do this, I'll select the dinosaur layer and click Command or Ctrl-J to duplicate it. Then I'll go to the FX button at the bottom of the Layers panel and select Color Overlay and check the box. The default is black, which is what I want. Next, I'll right-click on this layer and scroll down to Rasterize to change the layer into a pixel layer. Make sure to check off the box that says Preserve Layer FX and then click Rasterize. Alright, now to get the shadow onto the ground, I'll use the Perspective tool, which looks like a white grid that I have on my left-hand toolbar. Then, I'll use the little nodes on the corners to line the shadow up on the ground with a perspective that looks somewhat natural. Once I have it where I want it, I'll grab the layer and drop it below the time portal group, make a couple more adjustments, and then click Apply to bake in the perspective changes. Next, I'll create a little blur to the shadow by selecting the Live Filters button at the bottom of the Layers panel, and I'll select Gaussian Blur. Then, I'll use the slider to increase the blur until it looks about right to me. Alright, the next thing I want to do is to add a little bit of a dusty smoky effect under the time portal fire ring. To do this, I'll select my paintbrush tool in the left-hand toolbar and then I'll go to my brushes panel, choose the Dreamphotography category. If you don't have this category, you can download it for free from the Add-ons tab at Affinity's website. Or you can use an airbrush from the Sprays and Spatters category. Anyway, I'll choose this smoke brush. Then, I'll click the Add Pixel Layer button at the bottom of the Layers panel and make sure the layer is on the top of the stack. I'll set the color to a nice grey and then just paint away in the area that I want. Okay, now I just noticed that there are a couple power lines in the sky area. And the sky is kind of dull for me. So I think I will replace that area with a new sky that I downloaded from pixabay.com. To remove the sky, I'll just grab my selection brush tool to paint over it. To unselect an area I got by accident, I'll hold the Option or Alt key while painting to add it back in. Okay, that looks good. Now, if I want to replace the sky without damaging the original background image, I can go to Selection and then invert Pixel Selection to select everything but the sky. Then, I can just hit the Mask button at the bottom of the layer panel to mask off the selection and make the sky disappear. Then, I'll go to File and then Place to add the sky image that I downloaded earlier. I'll just drag that onto my canvas from the top left corner. Then, click and drag the layer below the Western Town layer to place the sky behind everything else. There, that looks much better. Okay, last thing I want to do before I let you go is to add a little depth to the fire ring time portal. To do this, I'll just select the layer and then click Command or Ctrl-J to duplicate it. I'll then select the lower of the two ring layers, click on the Live Filters button at the bottom of the Layers panel and choose Gaussian Blur. I'll raise up the slider about halfway to give it a bit of blur around the edges. That looks really nice to me. Alright, that's about it for today. If you learned something and want to see more of this kind of content, please click those like and subscribe buttons. And, if you're feeling generous, this channel runs on caffeine. There's a link to buy me a cup of coffee in the descriptions. Not necessary, but certainly appreciated. Have a great day, everyone.